never sleeps, pal.
Welcome to Money Never Sleeps, a podcast that looks inside the head of entrepreneurs and what makes them do what they do. A wise person once said, unless you're waking up in the middle of the night taking notes on your startup, that's not what you're cut out for. You don't pick your business idea picks you. How does this happen, and what keeps entrepreneurs going back for more? This is our 5th episode of Money Never Sleeps. For this episode, we had the pleasure of talking to Mai Santamaria, a career entrepreneur in banking and finance, who develops ideas into reality by bringing people together towards a shared vision. Mai started her career as a qualified accountant, which made me think of how Indiana Jones started out as a professor. One of the stories that Mai told us was reminiscent of the leap of faith towards the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's evident that Mai can see what others might miss, and that fortune and glory, kid, can take many shapes and forms. But how about Mai tells her story rather than me? So on with the show. Hi everyone, we're here for episode number 5 of Money Never Sleeps. I'm Pete Townsend. I'm here with Owen Fitzgerald over to my
Hi
right.
everyone.
We've also have the pleasure of having Mai Santamaria here with us, a career entrepreneur. Mai, say hello.
Hello.
Wonderful.
Hi Pete. Hi Owen.
Thank you so much for coming. To get started, you maybe want to just tell us a bit about Mai and what it is that you do.
What do? I tend to walk through doors when I want to look for something interesting, and I think that's what happened to me and how I ended up working in the Department of Finance in Ireland.
Okay, that's a great start. You walk through doors.
Yeah, I just go for it.
Like closed doors with screens in front of them or open doors?
Pretty much anything that looks like a challenge is good enough for me. I'm just curious by nature, and I'd like to see always what's around the corner through the doors. So I'd say it's curiosity that got me to be in Ireland today, after 25 years having left Barcelona.
Yeah, I saw you did your degree at Dublin City University.
That was a postgrad.
That was a postgrad.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I was doing a degree on it was translation and interpretation. I learned English and Japanese, and I was learning to translate written language, but also to interpret at the same time. So the kind of thing you do at, say, the European Commission or the European Parliament. So you put the little thing on one side and you talk through. So
okay.
I was doing that in the UAB in Barcelona. Okay.
And then what brought you? Was that what brought you to Dublin?
It was good luck. Meant that I managed to get an Erasmus. Good or bad luck, sent me to Limerick, to UL. So because I was doing Japanese, there was only 2 universities at the time that had Japanese studies. One was UL and the other one was Swansea.
Okay.
There was 2 guys, 2 places that were sent to Swansea. There was 1 space, 1 girl, me, and I ended up being in UL. And that's how I ended up in Ireland in the first place.
Wow. And
pure chance.
Mm-hmm.
So you speak Japanese. You clearly speak English. I expect you speak Portuguese.
I can understand it, yeah.
Okay. What else is on that list?
Well, I am bilingual. I was raised bilingual, Spanish and Catalan. My mother tongue actually is Catalan, and I speak Spanish as well. Like my mum's side of the family we're from the south of Spain, so we grew up doing everything in the 2 languages. Then I did French because it's easy enough to pick up, I think, when you do Catalan. And I wanted to do Japanese because I was obsessed with manga cartoons growing up, and I thought it'd be cool to learn Japanese, and I ended up doing both English and Japanese.
And still fluent?
No, I'm not. I haven't, honestly. It's beyond rusty. Like, I probably remember my name is Mai, and that was about it. Sorry and thank you. And yeah.
But it could come back to you.
It's hard work. Like 3 years at college, I learned about 2,000 kanjis, and you need about 8 to 10,000 to read the newspaper.
Wow.
Yeah, so it takes a long time to read.
Okay, not an easy language.
No, not.
Okay.
But it's an amazing culture, so.
Okay.
So after UL then, what was next?
So when I was in UL, I wanted to do business, and when I was UL, I found out there was a postgrad you could do for business administration, and there was an open door that I walked into. I decided to apply for it. I was very lucky to get accepted for it. Then I needed a job because I had no money to stay in Limerick, but I was able to get a job in Nancy Blake's, serving pints of Guinness.
As you do.
And so I did my business administration postgrad in UL. And halfway through that year, I ran out of money, and someone said to me, "Well, if you apply for one of the big six at the time, the milk rounds, if you become an accountant, an auditor, you can get paid and work at the same time." I was like, "Yeah, I've got 20 Irish punt in my pocket. Fine, I'll apply for it, see what happens." I'm not joking you. I had 20 Irish punt in my pocket.
That's all you had left?
That's all I had left.
Before you decided to become an accountant?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
economic means.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I applied through the milk rounds, like 5 days to go. Got 3 interviews, and Coopers and Lybrand sponsored me to do another postgrad in DCU before I joined them. So I just followed the opportunity.
All right. And how did that go?
Great. DCU was a tough year. It was it was a very tough year, because you do I don't know if it still exists. It was the diploma in accountancy and finance, so you get the same exemptions in 9 months as if you'd done an undergrad. So it's full on. It was like full on 14, 16 hours a day, like non-stop. Like did not socialise, did not go to one single student party. It was horrendous. But it meant that, Coopers and Lybrand would sponsor me through that, which they did. And I had a job at the end of that. So,
but surely you obviously had somewhat of a love of numbers and keep you going to where you are now.
Yes. Yes, all right. Yes, not bad. It was a means to an end, I think. But I think the good thing about accountancy, and that's what I have to say, I did kind of talk myself into, because I didn't really know what accounting was. I knew I wanted to kind of work in business. But I did realise that it was something I could do and travel with it. And travelling probably is what I do. I just love. I have a love of travel. I have a love of cultures, of being immersed in a new country, in a new city. I just love, you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning in a new city and you walk out and everything's new, and I just love all of that. And I knew that if I became an accountant, I could travel with it, right? Whereas it would be a lot more difficult if I became a solicitor. Particularly, like in Ireland perspective, like common law and so forth. And it has been, in my case, that's exactly what it's meant for me. I've been able to use my profession to travel.
So where have you worked?
Well, I worked in Ireland, and based in Ireland, I was managing the finance teams I was in G at the time, so in Europe. So I was traveling to the southern. So I was like all of the southern region of Europe. So that was like Portugal, Italy, Spain, Greece. Then I was doing central Germany. I was doing Nordics, so based in Finland, Sweden, Denmark, all that kind of stuff. The most of it, and probably the best, was my time in Barclays, because in 2008 I was asked to manage the African business, the old Barclays business, which now has been sold, unfortunately. But like for 2 or 3 years, it was just like Africa, Middle East, Asia, just like every week. It was just fascinating to get to know people from this country. It's like really, really, very good.
What was that balance between kind of work enjoyment and then the exploring cities and meeting new people on a 50-50, 60-40?
I think it was just 100% pure enjoyment.
Was it?
I'm very honest with you. I go back to it.
it.
Yeah, absolutely loved it.
So the accounting was a trade. It was a skill. It was your ticket.
It was my ticket in. Yeah, it really was.
And
which, bizarrely enough, came out of me being absolutely stone pauper with 20 quid in my pocket, right?
And you moved that up to kind of director, executive level. And how did that go for you?
Yeah, interesting. Interesting because I was at a banking time of probably, I would say, exuberant behaviour. It was a retail bank. There was, I remember a meeting where their marketing guys were talking about having girls in bikinis standing at traffic lights in Mauritius giving credit cards. I was like,
really?
Did I just got trapped in the Miami Vice episode or something, right? It's just,
Crockett and Tubbs.
What were we talking about here?
Were they dressed like Crockett and Tubbs as well? No.
Luckily they weren't, no. So things were happening really, really fast. There was not a lot talking, but at the same time, I was, like Barclays, we're talking about 300-year-old Quaker Brothers Bank, traditional bank, yeah, and you had the commercial side of the bank and the traditional bankers, like they have circles dying, like the pinstripe suits and that kind of forth, and then you're coming in, like young girls from all over the place and trying to break into that. Sometimes it was tough. I won't lie to you, but that was part of the challenge, right? Particularly the year that I was in Dubai. The year I was in Dubai was culturally super tough.
Why was that?
Because I was the only girl in the team, in the management team. After that, I think there was a lady that came from the Philippines in marketing, but up until that point in time, I was the only woman. And as CFO, I also had the purse strings for the budgets, and that did not go down well for some of the more traditional. But as I can only, that's from my experience, the obstacles that I have found professionally are the ones that have served me best in terms of improvement and professional experience after that. I had to learn the skill of finding my way around an obstacle in a way I probably wouldn't have had if I sat down and did some training about it. So I just had to find other ways of persuading and getting things done and getting people on board without threatening, without being overtly in your face. So it's very good.
It always seems to be the best way. I had my first boss out of college used to just throw me into stuff way over my head, but I learned more about that than when I was doing a role that I was used to. So
no, absolutely. In a way, all those obstacles are blessings, I think, when you see if you get yourself through at the end of it. Yeah. Certainly the ones that teach you the most. So it was tough. It was the way, it was 2009. The best thing about 2009 is that Barcelona got to win all the trophies possible in the world, 6 of them. Yeah. The last one was in Dubai at the time. So
you still follow them?
Yes.
Of course. Passionately?
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Catalan.
Did you do anything passionately, I presume?
Yes. I followed passionately what Ramos did at the Champions League final last weekend. I'll tell you that much. That's absolutely unacceptable.
That's been the one thing for me is that living here and I've been here for 12 years, right? And people expect that I have picked an English Premier League football side to go to support. And I'm supposed to like Liverpool because they're owned by the Boston Red Sox.
Of course.
Where I'm from, right? And and Liverpool wear Red Sox, right?
Yes.
But I just can't find myself to get passionate about a team from where I don't live or where I'm not from or I have no historical connections. You clearly have your historical connections with your teams.
Yes.
I still follow the Boston Red Sox. The first thing I do every morning is I look to see whether they won or lost, right?
That's so funny.
How do you you've got the passion for the cities, the passion for exploring, the passion for your teams, and I'm assuming your friends and family. How do you use that to affect change in business? How do you do that?
To be honest, I don't think I'm acutely aware of how do I go about to affect change. It's just, I guess, change for me is the way of living. Yeah, I've had very little constants in my life, and I guess I could not actually do a job that would not involve change. So, in a way, I would say, do I apply myself to actually put change there? No, I think change clearly is what I do. I was very lucky as well to my very first professional experience outside of accountancy. Once I got my articles was with GE, and GE at the time was. You went to GE to really understand change. You were looking at everything around you as a way of improving. That this was your Six Sigma, your green belts, and so forth, right? And I was very lucky to go to that because to me it wasn't something going against my personal way of being. Really was I can do that because that's what I like to do anyway. I just got into it. But I am aware that not everybody accepts change. So where I welcome it. Sometimes I pursue it actively. I am aware that not everybody is of the same inclination. So that's probably been how would I actually approach, or how do I approach change in a business environment? I think it's being aware that those people actually fear it or are uncomfortable in the face of it. So it's you turn that around. It's not change. It's actually finding a way to that. And I think my skill set and my training from my interpretation and translation degree comes into this. You find a way of communicating to that person which is how you get through to them. It could be a word, it could be a way of describing it. It's quite unique. Like, you have to find it, and I think every person will be different.
Being able to speak their language.
Yeah.
And I suppose I suppose myself and Pete have both had the pleasure of working with you on a number of things, and you seem like the type who would say, well, why not? So let's, here's an idea, let's go with it. We'll figure out a way, and we'll figure out who do we need to talk to and who do we need to figure out how to, convince them. And obviously like you said, it comes from, in some ways, having done so much. And look, I know myself, and I know with Pete, like, we've done so many different things that actually I find it adds so much value. And we talked about it before, about, this idea of everything you kind of learn will help in some way, even though you might appreciate it now, or it might be valuable now.
Absolutely. Like, this is, there's a little anecdote that I've actually used before, and I think you might think this is absolute rubbish, but I think it's someone said to me once, everything you learn in life serves a purpose if you know when you don't know it, right? And this is something that's been in my head. I don't know who told me, I know it's been there. But I do remember this particular time about 15 years ago. So I was trekking in Torres del Paine in Chile. And we've been trekking all day. We're just about to get to the refugio, where you go to sleep for the night. And literally, it's all scree down the mountain. We can't come across. All there is there is just the path. There's a sort of water's literally frozen over. So you've got this tiny path on scree. So it's right, as slippery as it is, right? And then on top of that, now you've got all this water coming down from the side, frozen over. So how do we get across? So it's like 6 or 7 of us, all in a straight line. How do we do? Oh my God, now it's too late. We can't go back. We've no tents. We have to get across. You have no mobile phones. Like, how do we do that? And I just looked at it and didn't even think about it, right? I picked up some dirt and I did this, threw it over, and I did blah, 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 cut, and I dip it over, and I walked over. And I looked back, and the other people were there, like Joe's down to here, and I was just like, come over, She's like, what's going on? And just like, and someone says, what did just happen there? I'm just like, we just got over. And obviously I was just so tired, I just wanted to get to bed. I want a cup of coffee, my dinner. But then I was just like, how do I know I have to do that? And then it came to me. When I was a little girl, we used to go mushroom picking in the Pyrenees with my grandfather. And that had happened to us one day. We got stuck over, and whatever it was, Granddad said, don't worry about it. Like, by the time the sun is up, the sun will have melted the ice. It didn't. And I remembered him picking up dirt and tiny stones and throwing them to create grid, to create that. And it's like, consciously, I was not aware. It's just at that point in time, my brain was able just to pick at that and use it. And I remember because I was
That's fascinating.
Mentoring. Yeah.
You know what you did there? You had a vision for how to solve something. You built a bridge, and then you brought everyone else across with you. Is that, in a nutshell, what you do?
Actually, yeah.
Bridge and bring people across it.
Try not to push anybody in the way. Yeah.
On the other side of it, then, I suppose, what given the way you describe yourself, what part of that works against you then?
It works against, I guess. The important thing, and it's something that you never stop doing, is getting to know yourself. And it's something that a lot of people think it's just about introspection and meditation or whatever it is. But in my experience, the best times or the best learnings have come from people providing me feedback, right? Literally a case of, as hard as it might be, like people saying to you, listen, Mike, do you realize that because Y and Z? So cases where independence or this drive has worked against me. I remember in one of my jobs, I came in from a previous company, I won't say where, and literally within 6 months, someone said to me, you're so aggressive. I'm like, what, me? It was just like, well, what are you talking about? It's like, you just go to meetings, you just come in there with these ideas. And I was just like, oh, hold on a second. And I was not aware. It's not something I sat there to kind of think, figure out what was happening. But clearly, that input and how other people perceived me was just so valuable. And it made me realize, just because I'm passionate and drive about someone, actually, it might put people off, or actually might put them more in a position of more of a defense, because they feel they don't have the same passion, they don't have the same drive, and are they not going to be up to scratch?
No, I get that. I worked with someone a few years ago that was very aggressive. But they were effective, but they weren't the most popular person in the office. I met someone 2 years later who reminded me exactly of that individual, and she did the same thing, but with a smile on her face.
I see.
And that's it. And it worked, and it's just how you carry yourself and your demeanor.
The only thing I'll add to that, though, is, because I've heard it a few times, is that you don't often hear a male referred to as aggressive. And I don't want to go down that conversation, but at the same time, it's very often heard of as women being aggressive, because they're, trying to drive change. It's not necessarily the same words that would be used to describe a male. But
no, like say if you were to find, would you ever see a man shed a tear in the office? If they did, like, oh my God, isn't he great? He's sensible. If a woman sheds a tear in the office, oh my God, she's hormonal. You could go that route. Yeah, it does happen. Like, but no, but it's a very good point. I mean, it's at the end of the day, I'm forever grateful for someone to say that to you, because then you learn to adapt. Absolutely. And you're going to go, okay, that's my way of being. I'm passionate about this. I understand it. Well, let's maybe, not that you have to change yourself. You just have to find another way to get through. As you said, Pete, is how do you find the way to talk their language? And the language is not just about the words, right? It's everything that goes with it. Like you're in Italy, you can't speak Italian unless you use your hands. Yeah. So you have to
ciao.
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit like this. Is you're presenting an idea, you want to do something, especially with change. Change does not happen unless the other person understands as well the need for that to change. So you cannot bring them on board with you unless they definitely speak the same language and have the same attitude. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, there's a difference between influence and persuasion.
Right? Yeah.
Influence changing people's beliefs, and persuasion just getting them to do something because there's something in it for them, right?
Yes.
And if you can influence without them knowing it, then you're doing pretty well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Who leans on you the most, and who do you lean on? Maybe just to answer the second half of that,
yes.
Who do you lean on?
Who do I lean on? That's a very interesting question. Is that if you refer to who do I lean on for support or for inspiration? Because it's quite different. For inspiration, I'd say it's my grandfather who, he passed away many, many years ago. He's probably the biggest male influencer in my life. I was very lucky I got to say goodbye to him. And he's my influencer, probably the one I lean on, because when I do something, I always think in the back of my mind, would Granda be proud of me if I did that?
What's his name?
That's what, for me, would he be happy? Would he smile? Would he be happy? Would he be proud of me? If I went home and I said, listen, I've done this today. And that pretty much has influenced, I'd say, every decision I've made in my life. For inspiration, I've definitely,
and then support, just day to day?
Day to day, I'm very lucky that I have, me, I can't talk to the stones, so I pretty much know a lot of people. I have lots of people. I have lots of friends. Not that I have lots of friends, but very few close ones. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just life takes over and I don't get to talk to someone for 2-3 months. But when I do, they're there for me. I probably tend to err, and that's something I would not encourage other people to do. That's you just go on for a long time, giving yourself constantly to work, to family and so forth, to the point that you're almost about so empty that then you need to fill up very quickly. I think this is something particularly for working women. It's probably the biggest pitfall, and I'd say probably the biggest cause of burnout or frustration, or of actually not even delivering at our best at work, that just we tend to go on for a long time without leaning on everyone or on anyone. And it's important to do it on a daily basis. So I've got few selected people I can lean on. And then the really deep ones, I can always make a phone call at very last minute. And then there's the odd pint of Guinness once a month at least.
There you go. Yeah, the therapy session with Arthur Guinness.
Yeah.
I thanked him in my wedding speech. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I named my youngest Arthur because I just wanted to, I liked the name so much.
Blessing.
No, it's a Scottish.
What's maybe one thing, just to wrap things up, geez, you've shared a lot already.
Yes.
But in terms of something that, even with all this, that's something someone might not expect about Mai Santamaria.
Maybe
let me share one with you. I can talk backwards.
Yes.
Wow. Because when I was a kid and I'd lay awake in the heat and humidity of Springfield, Massachusetts, outside of Boston, where I grew up, in the summer with no air conditioning, and my parents will cry when they hear this. But I couldn't sleep, so I'd look up at my bookcase up at the wall, and I'd look at the book titles, and I'd read them to myself to fall asleep. And after I read them once frontwards, I'd read the book titles backwards, right? So I learned how to speak backwards. Einac Clat's a draw cap, which is I can talk backwards, right? So that's something unknown about Pete Townsend, right?
That's incredible.
Anything about Mai?
Oh, nothing interesting, I'm sure. Anything interesting about me? I have no talents.
You said you're a classic introvert.
Yeah, certainly. Honestly, I can't sing, I can't dance, I have no party tricks. I'll tell you something maybe that nobody knows, and now we're going to put it there to give you something. But I guess I might as well confess to it. In my very first translation job, it was in Barcelona. So my aunt was working for the university teaching nurses. And there was a nurse and her son that came from America. And they needed somebody to translate English to Catalan all day long, which I agreed to it. I can't believe I'm going to say that. And I did the job, and then in the evenings we finished the job, and my aunt took the lady from America and her son out for dinner, and I went with them. I was pretty tired. I'd been translating for like 8 hours at that stage, and after that we went back to my aunt's house for a nightcap, and she was offering stuff, and they said, "Oh, we'd like to have some whiskey," and I said, okay, and then obviously I'm translating, and I said, "Oh yeah," I said, "Do they want ice?" My aunt, I was like, "Okay," and I said, "Oh, would you like some ice?" I said, "Oh, that's okay on the rocks," and my aunt says, "Oh, we have no ice. I only have, those plastic, like cubes, only that they were not cubes. They were little balls." So I said to the guy, literally, "Would you like whiskey on the balls?"
We had a similar story like that today before we started.
I confessed to it. That was 1993. And I'd say that guy's come back to the States and repeated that story 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So.
My dad grew up in Argentina for a few years, and he had not quite the same experience, but something similar. So especially because of the translation.
It is, and there's like a word in Spain which means just to grab. So you grab a taxi, you grab a train, but in Argentina it means something very rude.
Oh yeah,
very rude, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I've been there. I went there to meet to a friend's wedding, and I'm meeting her mom straight from the airport, tired, and I'm just like, and I was like, oh my god. Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. Right. There you go.
Thank you very much for joining us and sharing all of that. I'm sure you'll be delighted when it gets out on the air. But we are hugely thankful for having you on the show. Oh. I thought that was really great.
Pleasure opening up to you.
Thank you, Mai. That was brilliant.
That was very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
We'd like to thank Mai for opening up her mind for the 5th episode of Money Never Sleeps, a podcast brought to you by Owen Fitzgerald and me, Pete Townsend. If you like what you just heard, please scream it from the rooftops. We'd also like to thank Gav Timlin and Conan Brophy from Create Sound for recording and editing this podcast. Finally, thanks to Start Lab on Camden Street in Dublin, a startup incubator run by Bank of Ireland, for hosting us and for the important role they play in helping Irish startups get started. Hasta luego!